So we've got what, a 106-point cut. We're at the day's lowest point. Absolutely no doubt about that. And I mean, below the 10,700 mark, which just, I mean, when we were talking with Ashwini, we were about, what, 10 points above it. So there has been another leg down, which we've seen, and it's been a sharp one. Maybe we could just go back and, by the way, the broader market has also come off a little bit more. It's still outperforming the Nifty, but 0.5% cut in the small cap index, and the mid cap index is down 0.4%. The bank Nifty is down 0.75%. So everything is down a little bit more. Europe should come up on your screen very briefly if the pressure there is accentuated. We got you the values when they opened at 130, and I think they were all broadly lower, and I think the same kind of pressure continues. Maybe a little bit more. CAC down almost 1, DAX is down 0.75, and FTSE is down about 0.4%. Okay, we're back to the domestic markets and domestic cues, and this is essentially banks writing to the RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das, expressing concerns over a variety of issues and essentially asking for help, seeking help. Ritu Singh got us the story. She's joining in. Ritu, just recap. What does the letter say, and what do banks want?
Well, Prashant, this letter was written just after the Reserve Bank of India governor held meetings with all, chiefs of public and private sector banks. So towards the end of December is when this letter was written, submitting some of the key concerns that the banks have, across issues from the FEP 12 circular to the MSME lending to the IL&FS crisis, as well as the ATM guidelines that are set to kick in later this year. First, in the FEP 12 circular, the age-old demand that the one-day default rule be done away with. Banks should be given 60 days before resolution has to be started, and another 60 days before, the company has to be sent to NCLT if the resolution plan fails. Also, a simple majority of 66% banks seek, should be enough for the resolution plan to be passed under the FEP 12 circular. More importantly and more pressing is the issue of the IL&FS group, where banks say that, a substantial portion of about 60,000 crores of loans is under risk of turning NPAs if RBI does not give them a dispensation, which means, given that banks are restrained by NCLAT from extracting any money or taking any effort, making any actions towards, getting their money back from the IL&FS group. They've sought RBI's help to keep those accounts standard for all the IL&FS group companies for at least 6 months. The December 31st books will be closed within this week or the next, and therefore, if this RBI dispensation does not come soon enough, a lot of bad loans will have to be classified for the IL&FS group across banks. There's also some relaxation sought on the capital requirements, where they want the risk weights to be aligned to the Basel III norms, which will free up 25 to 40 basis points of capital across banks. And lastly, ATM, guidelines that are set to kick in later this year, replacing EVM chips, logistics issues, or upgrading software. Also, some relaxation is being sought on that front. And lastly, there was also something, a one-time restructuring that was sought for MSMEs, which the RBI has already obliged with. But these are some of the key issues that banks are hoping, the RBI governor, with the new governor, will be paying heed to, and perhaps some action is expected over the next few weeks itself.
Right, Ritu. Thank you so much for bringing us all that information. We trust you to be top of this story. But let's move on and talk about the FMCG space, because it seems like a big blow has come in for Nestle after the Supreme Court revives class action suit against the company initiated by the government. And this is regarding the controversial Maggi case. Now, Ashmit joins in with all the details. Ashmit, tell us how big a setback is this, and what did the Supreme Court actually say?
Well, you're correct. A big setback. I mean, as far as Nestle is concerned, that this could potentially revive the Maggi case, the Maggi ban case, which in fact hurt the company significantly about 3 years back in the year 2015. Now, let's keep in mind the facts of this case. Now, there were two parallel cases that were going on. One, of course, was Nestle's application against the FSSAI order. But parallel to that, the government of India, in the first of its kind class action suit, had moved the National Consumer Dispute Resolution Commission, and in doing so had sought damages of 640 crore rupees. So keep that in mind. There were two parallel proceedings. Nonetheless, both of them culminated here before the Apex Court. The Supreme Court had directed in 2015 for a Mysore lab to conduct and to have sampling and to have tests. Subsequently, in 2016, the Mysore lab had come out with the results. Now, the question that came up before the Apex Court after 3 years, there weren't any arguments between the two sides for 3 years. But now when the question that came up before the Apex Court was, what about the way forward now that we have the Mysore report? What the Apex Court has done is that it has revived the matter. It has sent the matter back to the NCDRC, and in doing so, it has revived that class action suit that had sought damages of 640 crore rupees. What it has also done is that it has asked the NCDRC to evaluate this Mysore lab report. Now, keep in mind that as far as the Mysore lab reports are concerned, Nestle claims that lead, as per the report, seems to be within the permissible limits. However, the report in itself concedes that as far as MSG levels are concerned, we at Mysore Labs haven't been able to ascertain whether it's naturally occurring or it was introduced artificially by the company in question. So again, there is a fair bit of wiggle room here. The matter has now been sent back to the NCDRC. The rights and contentions of the government have also been kept open. So the government here potentially can revive their demand for 640 crore rupees, can revive their claims that there was misinformation, that there was MSG content beyond the prescribed levels, which in fact could spell fresh trouble for Nestle. So clearly, a fresh round of battle beginning in the Maggi ban case. NCDRC is the next port of call for both the company in question, Nestle, as well as the government.
Ashmit, thanks very much for that. In any case, cannot be good news for Nestle one way or the other. I mean, incrementally, it's a bit bad.